Hey everyone, we're Red Donkey Projections. I'm Eric and we have Lucas as always.
Hail.
So what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at Politico's take and predictions on the 2020 elections. This is a huge disclaimer that these are absolutely not our predictions, and what we're actually for the most part going to be doing today is talking about whether we agree or disagree with them.
With that being said, let's get right into it. So I do want to point out that we do agree with most of these states. California is safe. Oregon, I'd say safe. I think likely is a bit too in the middle on this thing.
Mhm.
Washington is solid. Yes. Solid, solid. I feel like maybe Politico is wary and doesn't want to put something as safe almost because a lot of these states are toss up. Um,
Mhm. A lot.
hmm, I'm sure. Yeah, I do think they're a bit scared to put something as too safe and then maybe get it wrong. That's my kind of a take on this because we have 169 safe, 112 toss up, 1934. Yeah, it's very interesting to look at this.
Mhm.
Let's start by talking about the states that we disagree with now after we went through all the states we do agree with. I do want to say that the East Coast, Rhode Island, Delaware, especially Delaware, because this is the home state of Joe Biden, I think that these two states are solid.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know what they were I don't know what they were using to um, come to this conclusion.
yeah, I would say probably solid. Polling does also point to a solid direction. I'm not sure why. Well, Rhode Island, no, I still think it should be solid. Yeah. Um, let's look at Maine now. Maine, very interesting here. Statewide votes lean Dem, District 1 solid Dem, District 2 lean Dem, lean GOP. I do agree with that. I think
Yeah,
that's
that
very,
makes sense.
yeah, that's fair to put.
What about New Hampshire right next to it? Very interesting. They put it as toss up,
We usually put the state as likely Democratic.
likely.
Mm, and according to polling, Biden is leading by about 8 points, which is quite interesting. Obviously, we can't always rely on polling, but New Hampshire toss up, that's a bit too in the middle type.
Hmm.
I do agree if you put it as lean, that I agree with, but I feel like toss up is a bit too in the middle,
Hmm.
too generous to the GOP in this one. Um,
Yeah.
overall, that's the East Coast. Let's come back to the blue wall later. Interesting. Ohio, Iowa being lean. What do you think about that, Eric?
Um, I mean, as we said earlier, Ohio and Iowa are the two states that are leaning Republican,
Hmm.
and here they put it as lean Republican. I would honestly put Iowa. I think we either said lean or likely for both of these states. I think we
Yep.
put likely for our last videos.
Hmm.
This
Especially,
relatively makes sense.
I think Iowa. I would put Iowa as honestly, it could be safe. I put likely or safe, but lean. It makes sense, but I think it's a little bit too generous to the Democrats because
Hmm.
we've seen a consistent polling pattern and their demographics pattern moving more and more to the right now. So, what do you think about this toss up for Nebraska second here, Eric?
I do not agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a lean at least,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
it's either lean or up.
I do agree with that because for those of you that don't know, Nebraska second district contains all the big cities because it's a very small in area, which means that there has to be more cities there. And this includes the city of Omaha, which is a pretty big city in Nebraska. I think it is the biggest city in Nebraska. Um, yes, it has big cities, but we can't really always assume that these are going to always vote Democrat because we have to remember this is Nebraska. They have these GOP voters here. I personally put this one as lean or likely. I would go more towards lean, but I don't think toss up is the right
Mhm.
characterization here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a pattern of them moving the states more to the middle, maybe like kind of under exaggerating it. I don't know.
Yeah,
See here. Arizona's as toss-up. That's correct. I do
yeah,
agree
that
with
makes
that.
sense.
Okay, let's talk about Texas and Georgia now.
This is
Uh, I do not
um
think I do not think that Texas, Iowa. Oh, I don't. Okay, let me reword this. I don't think that Texas and Georgia are on the same level of competitiveness as Iowa and Ohio. That
mm-mm,
I feel like
absolutely
they're
not.
a step more towards the GOP. Texas and Georgia, they are not, definitely not leans in this election.
Hmm.
Uh,
Not in this election. We have talked about how they might swing left in the future, but it's definitely not coming in this election.
no, absolutely not. I likely at most. Um, lean is a bit too generous to the Democrats here, because polling does point to Trump leading by uh, a comfortable margin, not that much, but it's pretty comfortable.
Mhm.
And we have to keep in mind that these two states are deep red, even though the demographics might be changing, but definitely not 2020.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
interesting here. Florida toss up, that's acceptable. Best because I don't think they don't have tilts here. Personally, I put this one as tilt R, but they don't have tilts, so I guess toss up is the best way to go. I do think that that should be the right characterization here. Um, New Mexico is likely. That makes sense here.
Mhm.
Colorado is lean. That's interesting. Yes, it's changed. Before it used to go to the Republicans quite often. I think it was a swing state before though.
Yep.
2004 went to George W. Bush both in 2000 and 2004. Um, I think it's moved more to the left, um, and I do think this one will go to the Democrats in a likely, especially
Mhm.
considering that John Hickenlooper is running for Senate. We do think he will win, and if those Democrats voting for John Hickenlooper go out, they might also cast their vote for Joe Biden. So I don't think lean is the right characterization here.
Mhm. Yep.
So I think let's cover North
Nevada.
Carolina and
Oh,
Nevada,
Nevada.
and then we'll head back to the
Okay.
blue.
Sounds like a plan.
Nevada, yeah. You want to do Nevada?
Yeah. So they surprisingly put Nevada as toss up. I do not agree with this because in most if not all of our videos, we put it as likely. It's even on our Patreon that Nevada is likely.
Yes.
By the way, yes, go please donate to our Patreon. Yeah, I do not agree. I think this is likely. Yeah,
Um,
your pattern is very consistent, Lucas.
yeah. At most, I would put a lean D. The margin might be that close. Lean D does make sense. Definitely not toss up.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is quite interesting here. North Carolina is another interesting one. Personally, it's. I mean, there is going to be a slight chance that it goes to Joe Biden. I'll, slight chance, but in my opinion, I think tilt R, lean R would be what a better characterization than
Yeah.
toss up. I'm more leaning towards lean R here
Mhm.
because we do usually put the state as lean. Personally, I do think that Donald Trump should be able to carry the state at the end of the day. Hasn't went to the Democrats since 2008 when Barack Obama carried it.
Mhm.
In 2016, it was quite interesting. I was looking at projections earlier today. 538 actually gave North Carolina a 55% chance of going to Hillary Clinton. I found that to be quite interesting. I didn't think I expect that at all. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, in 2016, it was a 3 point difference. Um, I still think yes, there's a chance it can go Joe Biden. But if I had to choose between one, it would go to the Republicans. I don't think toss up would be right to say here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the interesting blue wall here. Minnesota is lean. Eric, you want to talk about Minnesota?
Let's move on to Minnesota. Politico puts it as lean Democratic. I'm not sure when this was updated and if it's up to date with the protests and the police brutality of George Floyd here. But as of June 1st, I do not think this is fair, especially with the protests going out and everyone speaking out. Minnesota is definitely going to provide a leg up for the Democrats. I would even put this as safe, but if
Mm,
that's a bit too much, likely.
I think likely it's a sweet spot here. The only way that this doesn't be either likely or safe is if Joe Biden chooses Amy Klobuchar. Personally, I think that's a terrible decision in this time period since she did not prosecute the officer Derek Chauvin that killed George Floyd. That would be a terrible decision. If that happens, honestly, Minnesota's either toss up or tilt are at that point. But if we're considering this a generic thing, after all of what's happened, I think likely or safe. I'm more leaning towards likely. There's an argument for safe, but I personally would put this one as likely here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, this is actually quite interesting that I see Wisconsin and Michigan are on the same level. Um, I personally actually put Michigan as a lean D. Toss up, definitely there's a point for. I do think this is an acceptable characterization here, but I think the better characterization is lean, or I think tilt would be acceptable as well. But I think toss up is pretty fair for this one. Wisconsin toss up, definitely agree with that. If I had to choose one, actually I can't even decide. We put this one as tilt D in our election night, but that was after a lot of debating. I think Wisconsin's a pure toss up,
Yeah.
definitely pure toss up.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to our final state, I think, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm.
Eric, you want to talk about Pennsylvania?
Yeah, so here, Pennsylvania Politico puts as toss-up. I can see why they put that. They didn't really want to follow the polls, or they didn't really want to put in their 2 cents. We personally put this as lean Democratic.
I think it
The
was tilt. Yeah, tilt Democratic.
Yeah, oh wait. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. Tilt
Uh,
Democratic. Yeah, we said tilt Democratic because, Joe Biden was born here in Scranton, so he has that advantage. And it's going to be close, but we think Joe Biden is gonna slightly get it, but I do respect their decision here.
yeah, I agree with that as well. I do want to also talk about the recent protests. We have some in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
as well as some in Pittsburgh, which I think is right here.
Yeah,
Um,
similar.
Definitely quite interesting. That might impact the election because it kind of shows maybe people are going to go to the polls more following these recent events.
Mm.
And likely, if the African American turnout increases, they're probably going to be voting for Joe Biden, the Democrat. Um, I think this is a fair characterization. We don't know when this was updated, but if they haven't updated it personally, I would update this one to say, oh, but they don't use tilt. I would personally put this one as either tilt or lean.
Mhm.
Obviously, I do lean more towards tilt. Do you see what I did there? Lean more towards tilt. Okay, but I personally lean more towards
Okay.
tilt. But there is kind of a case for like a lean, but toss up makes sense. Yeah, either way, I do think toss up does make sense and is pretty fair here.
Hmm.
Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this episode. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please hit subscribe. And also, make sure you join the Discord. And we'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.